Hello and welcome to the Philippines, and welcome to Dumaguete, the Philippines, on Negros Island. This is the boardwalk here. Dumaguete is rated as number 5 on the 7 best places to retire by Forbes magazine. Not sure what year that was. This is the boardwalk area, and long boardwalk area. Looks like they're extending it as well. As you go down there, you can see the port where all the ferries come in. There's another port, there's a couple more ports as you go north out of Dumaguete City, not very far, about 8 kilometers, and then, maybe 20 kilometers north. Here's a look at some of the businesses across from the boardwalk, and the boardwalk stays quite busy, especially in the evening. It draws quite a crowd. And restaurants, bars, that place right there had a band outside playing and drew a huge crowd while I was there. People in the park gathering around, listening to it. And I went walking looking for a good burger, and I walked quite a ways, and I finally come across a place called Das Burger, D-A-S Burger, and recommend that place. Coming up right here, it's further down towards the port a ways, and different families. There's a burger place, and then right next to that is a bar, and right connected to that is a hotel. And right there, I did not go in and look at the rooms there. La Residencia Almar, I believe. Rather small number of units there, I believe, but good burgers. There are also several restaurants on side streets as you go further into the city from here, and another block or two in as well. So there's no shortage of places to eat and drink and just to relax. One thing, when I was thinking coming to Dumaguete, I'd heard how difficult it was to cross streets here. I was very fearful for my life. And when I got there and ventured outside of my hotel, I started crossing streets and crossing more streets and crossing more streets and crossing streets when I didn't have to cross the street, just to see how difficult it really was. And I determined it really wasn't that difficult. All these vloggers and expats that live in Dumaguete that claim it's so difficult. I think what we should do is set up a sponsorship program where we will bring people from Dumaguete, expats and vloggers, into Cebu City and teach them how to cross a street in a big city. And after a couple weeks here in Cebu City, I think they probably won't have too much difficulty crossing the street in Dumaguete anymore. Just a matter of some training. So think about that, guys, how we could sponsor the vloggers from Dumaguete and bring them into the big city and teach them how it's done. Dumaguete has about 7 malls and shopping centers, according to Wikipedia. Very rare you'll see a taxi here, if at all. Main mode of transportation is the tricycle or the hobble, motorbike taxi. And this is one of the malls, Robinson's Mall. I walked halfway here. It's about 2 kilometers away from my hotel. Then I took a hobble. It was 8 pesos, or about 16 US cents to get here. And there doesn't seem to be a shortage, although I suspect that at rush hour, when the malls get out or when people are going to work, you might have some difficulty in finding one right when you want one. If you live in an area like this, it's good to get to know some of the drivers and their routines. A lot of these people I notice in different cities have favorite drivers that they wait for. Also, favorite jeepneys, and they'll just wait for that one. They'll let one pass by that is going the same place because they have a particular one that they're used to using. Probably a relative or friend. And the mall, Robinson's Mall, was you know, it's not as big as the Ayalas and the SMs in Cebu City, but they become a little bit redundant with how much they have. You know, hundreds of cell phone shops, and there is plenty to see and do here. A couple killer watchdogs there, I believe.
Guard dogs? Guard dogs? Killers? Killers?
Oh.
Killer dogs? Oh.
Dumaguete is popular with Europeans as well as Americans from various countries, and I believe that my impression and what I've read is that there's a larger percentage of expats, of foreigners, retiring here than many other cities. One of the reasons it's small, it has many of the things that you might want, and yet it's not the large polluted city with the big traffic problems like Manila and Cebu City. It's got many universities. It's known as a university city. I think it's got 4 universities and several other colleges. It's got an airport just outside of town, about I believe it is about 8, 9, 10 kilometers north of town, and they're building another bigger one that should have international status south of town, Bakong, something like that. I think it's not going to open till somewhere around 2025 possibly, but I think the funds and all the funds have been put out there to buy up the land that's needed. Most of the sidewalks seem to be walkable, although there are some areas that gets a little tight. A lot of people doing business on the sidewalk. There are certain areas where you just need to be careful because you might drop into a trend. I was wondering what all the commotion was here. Lots and lots of motorbikes and people hanging out around here, and it turns out this is the rooster fighting arena right to my right here, and people are buying tickets and putting their bets out there, and a little more congested area anyway. They have several hospitals here, and from what I've read, they're planning on building or in the process of building 1 or 2 additional ones. One of the hospitals is considered, in fact, is tied in with one of the better ones up in Manila. I'm walking one of the main streets that goes from Robinson's Mall into further into the downtown area where my hotel is, about 2 kilometers, and it was a rather nice walk. Didn't see as many stray dogs as what I see in Cebu City. I don't know if that's actually the case or that's just my experience. And this is, I think there's 2 bus stations in town. The Ceres bus station, Ceres, is very popular in many parts of the Philippines. And then there's another bus depot, and I'm not quite certain where it's at, but it is for all the other bus lines, I believe. And I used it once about 1.5 years ago. Came in town for about 2 days, and came here, and the ferry that we were going to take back was not going to run. They didn't have enough freight, or there was whatever the issue, mechanical issues with the freighter or whatever, the ferry. And so we came over here to Ceres, and we asked and asked and asked. I had a Filipino with me, and we could not get, we kept getting different information about when the bus was going to leave to go back to Cebu City, and that bus, when we finally got on one, about 4 hours later, went north, I think maybe 15, 20 kilometers, I'm not sure what the name of the port is, and it's a row ferry, roll on, roll off, and we get on the ferry, the bus backs onto the ferry, and so we ride the ferry across the island of Cebu, get back on the bus, and the bus takes around the south end of Cebu Island and back up around the east side up to Cebu. About a 5-hour trip, or a little bit longer, I believe. Most of these tricycles here in Dumaguete are bigger and have an extra bench seat than most of the ones I see in Cebu City, and a little different design. I posted a price list for these tricycles that I found at the Dumaguete port on a previous video, but here it is again. And there was a barrel sitting right in front of it, so I couldn't get the full list, but it gives you an idea some of the fares in pesos. And the US dollar, you just divide by 50 to get the a US dollar amount. So 100 pesos is $2. As the stores close late in the afternoon, the streets, the sidewalks become a different type of market. And in this case, sacks and sacks and sacks of shoes. And there was a number of different types of markets. Seems like each area has its own group of people selling different things, from produce to fish to shoes and sandals. Here again, I'm about to cross one of these very dangerous Dumaguete streets. And here again, it wasn't that difficult. Of course, I have the experience of having lived in the big city for 2.5 years, so I have some experience here. And here again, I crossed just so that I could cross, just so I could show the people of Dumaguete that it is possible to cross those streets. It's not that difficult. This is one of the places you can rent a motorbike in town, and sounds like a pretty good operation.
What are they, 100, 125?
Yeah. Automatic, semi-automatic.
Automatics?
Yeah, and also semi.
Oh.
My concern about renting a bike from anybody is if it breaks down, no fault of myself, who takes care of picking it up and fixing it? And he assured me that if it's a mechanical issue that I didn't wreck the bike, that they would we'd just call them and they would pick it up. That's very important because I don't want to get stuck with repairing a bike that somebody did not properly maintain and breaks down someplace down the road. I stayed at the C&L Suites Inn, and I just kind of showed up. They've got two in town, one closer to the boardwalk, and the one I had basically on the main street goes through town. I think it was 1,150 pesos a night just by walking in. I didn't go online to check out any special. Look at the colors of this place. I love it. I love those colors. Anyway, it was clean, comfortable, wide Wi-Fi and cable television included, and I was happy with it. They had a rooftop buffet for breakfast only, so it closed after that. You didn't have access to that. The other one closer to the boardwalk is open, I think, from early morning to quite late, if you want to check that out. Anyway, thank you for coming along. Please like, please share the video, please subscribe. Safe travels to you all wherever you're at, and we'll see you next time.